after my husband's funeral. I thought nothing could hurt me more. But then my own sister dropped a bomb. She wanted to steal everything from me, until I turned the tables. And she lost it all. When I walked into the church that day, my whole body felt numb. My husband, Daniel, had been the love of my life for nearly 15 years. We met in college, fell in love when we were both broke, and built everything together from scratch. Now, instead of walking beside me, he was lying in a coffin. I tried to keep my tears from falling as I sat in the front row with our son, Caleb, clinging to my arm. He was only 10, too young to lose his father, too young to even understand the depth of what had just happened. My family was scattered around the church. My parents sat behind me, whispering prayers. But my sister, Marissa, strutted in like it was some kind of social event. She wore a tight black dress that was better suited for a nightclub than a funeral. Her lipstick was too red. Her heels clicked against the wooden floor, and her eyes scanned the room, not with grief, but with calculation. I noticed the smirk she gave me when our eyes met, a smirk that made my stomach twist. Still, I said nothing. Today wasn't about her. It was about Daniel, about saying goodbye to the man who had been my safe place, my anchor, and my best friend. After the funeral, we had a small gathering at my house. People brought food, flowers, and words of sympathy. I was exhausted, but I tried to be gracious. Caleb was upstairs with his cousins, and for a moment I allowed myself to breathe. That's when Marissa cleared her throat and tapped her wine glass like she was about to give a wedding toast. "I have an announcement," she said, her voice cutting through the room. Everyone fell silent. My heart sank. This wasn't the time. Marissa placed her hand on her stomach, and with a dramatic sigh, she said, "I'm pregnant." A few people gasped, others clapped politely. I just sat there, stunned. But then she smiled wider and added, "And the father is Daniel." The air was sucked out of the room. I felt like I had been punched in the chest. I laughed nervously, shaking my head. "Marissa, that's not funny. Stop it." But she didn't back down. She pulled a folded piece of paper from her purse and waved it in the air. "This is Daniel's will," she declared. "He signed months ago. It says that as the mother of his unborn child, I'm entitled to half of his assets, including this house." I couldn't breathe. My ears rang. My parents were frozen. The guests stared at her in shock. "You're lying," I whispered. She walked closer, her heels clicking against the floor. "No, dear sister, I'm telling the truth. Daniel wanted me to have security for his child. This house is worth nearly $800,000, so half of it belongs to me now." People began murmuring. Some looked at me with pity, others with curiosity. Caleb came down the stairs, holding his cousin's hand, confused by the tension in the room. I quickly pulled him aside, not wanting him to hear any of this poison. "Go upstairs, sweetheart," I told him gently. "Mommy will be up soon." He nodded and left. Then I turned back to Marissa. My hands were trembling, but my voice was steady. Get out," I said. She smirked again. "Oh, don't be so dramatic. This is just business. We're family. If you're smart, we can share peacefully." The audacity of her words lit a fire in my chest. "You're standing in my living room 2 hours after I buried my husband, telling me you're carrying his baby and demanding half my home. Get out." My parents tried to intervene, but Marissa wasn't leaving quietly. She tossed the will on the coffee table and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. The room was silent. I picked up the paper with shaking hands. The handwriting looked like Daniel's, but something felt off. The signature, the formatting. It wasn't right. "She forged this," I whispered. "She actually forged this." But even if it was fake, the damage was done. The seed of doubt was planted, and people were whispering already. That night, after everyone left, I sat in my bedroom with Caleb asleep beside me. I stared at the ceiling, remembering every moment I had shared with Daniel. Never, not once, had I suspected he would betray me. Was it possible? Could Marissa actually be telling the truth? I shook the thought out of my head. No, Daniel wasn't that kind of man. He loved me. He adored Caleb. He wasn't capable of doing what she claimed. Still, the fear gnawed at me. The next morning, I went straight to a lawyer. I brought the so-called will with me, and after a few minutes of examination, the lawyer looked up and said, "This is a forgery. A bad one, too." Relief washed over me. But then he frowned. "That doesn't mean she won't try to make this ugly. If she's really pregnant, she could attempt to claim paternity and drag you through court. We'll need to prepare for that." I buried my face in my hands. I was already drowning in grief. Now I had to fight my own sister for the life Daniel and I had built together. Days turned into weeks, and Marissa didn't let up. She sent me texts, emails, and even showed up at my door. She would rub her stomach and say things like, "Better get used to it, sis. This child will have everything Daniel owned, including Caleb's inheritance." I refused to let her see me break, but at night when Caleb was asleep, I would cry silently into my pillow, wondering how I ended up here. I wasn't just grieving a husband anymore. I was fighting to protect my son, my home, and Daniel's legacy. And deep down, I knew one thing for certain. If Marissa thought she could steal everything from me, she was about to learn just how wrong she was. Because I wasn't going to let her destroy us. The morning after my lawyer confirmed the will was fake, I felt a spark of determination ignite in me. Marissa thought she could waltz into my life, spin lies, and strip me of everything Daniel and I had built. She underestimated me. Still, her threats loomed over me like a storm cloud. She didn't just stop with me, she began poisoning our extended family. "She's jealous," Marissa whispered to my cousins at Sunday dinner. "Daniel loved me too, but she can't accept it. That's why she's keeping his child from its rightful inheritance." I walked into the room just as she was saying it. Everyone looked at me, some with sympathy, others with doubt. The betrayal burned, but I smiled tightly and carried on as if her words meant nothing. Deep inside, I was screaming. A week later, Marissa appeared at my door again, waving a piece of paper. "It's official," she said with a gleam in her eye. "I'm 12 weeks pregnant, and once the baby is born, I'll be demanding a DNA test. You better prepare yourself, sis." I took the paper from her hand. It was an ultrasound printout. It could have been anyone's baby. "Congratulations," I said flatly. "But let me be clear, Daniel is not the father. And if you continue harassing me, I'll file for a restraining order." She smirked, clearly thrilled to see me rattled. "Oh, you'll regret saying that. Everyone will see the truth soon enough." As she walked away, my hands shook with rage. But I remembered my lawyer's advice. Don't engage, don't give her more ammunition. Within days, the division in the family deepened. My parents tried to remain neutral, but I could see my mother's doubt growing. "What if it's true?" she whispered one evening when she thought Caleb couldn't hear. "What if Daniel made a mistake?" I felt my chest tighten. "Mom, Daniel would never do that. He was loyal to me until the day he died. Marissa is lying, and deep down, you know it." But my mom only sighed, torn between her daughters. Marissa, meanwhile, was thriving in the drama. She even hosted a gender reveal party, inviting half the family and posting pictures online with captions like, "Daniel's legacy continues." Each post was like a dagger. Friends of ours started asking me quietly if it could be true. Some offered support, but others looked at me with pity, as if I had been the fool all along. I realized then, this wasn't just about inheritance or property. Marissa wanted to destroy my reputation, to erase me and take my place. 3 months later, I got the call that made my blood run cold. It was my cousin, whispering on the phone. "You need to get down here. Marissa is at the lawyer's office right now, trying to file for half the house." She brought evidence. I dropped everything and rushed over. When I walked into the office, Marissa was seated across from a lawyer, holding a folder stuffed with photos. She smirked when she saw me. "Ah, perfect timing. I was just showing them proof of my relationship with Daniel." The lawyer glanced at me, clearly uncomfortable. "She claims these photographs demonstrate." I snatched the folder and opened it. Inside were photos of Daniel smiling, working, attending family gatherings. And in each one, Marissa had carefully cut and pasted herself beside him. It was laughably bad, but also chilling. She had fabricated an entire relationship. Are you serious? I barked. These are photoshopped. Look at the shadows, the proportions. This isn't even the same background. But Marissa only leaned back, smug. Believe what you want. The truth will come out when the baby arrives. The lawyer excused himself quickly, realizing he was dealing with a circus. I walked out trembling with fury. This wasn't just manipulation anymore. It was obsession. Months later, Marissa finally gave birth. She sent me a single-line text that made me laugh bitterly. It's a boy. Daniel's son. I ignored it. But a week later, a letter arrived from her attorney demanding a DNA test for paternity. My lawyer and I prepared for the battle. If Daniel had truly been the father, though every part of me knew he wasn't, the test would prove it. And if he wasn't, Marissa's entire castle of lies would collapse. But here's where the story took a twist I didn't see coming. The results came back. Daniel was not the father. I nearly collapsed with relief. Finally, the nightmare was over. But instead of disappearing in shame, Marissa doubled down. She claimed the test was rigged, that I had used my connections to cover it up. At that moment, I realized she didn't actually care about proving paternity. She cared about destroying me. I knew I couldn't just sit back anymore, so I hired a private investigator. Within 2 weeks, the truth came spilling out. Marissa was pregnant, but not with Daniel's child. She'd been having an affair with a married coworker. He had cut her off when he found out, and she had decided to pin the baby on Daniel for financial security. The investigator collected messages, receipts, and even photos of her with the real father. The evidence was undeniable. I sent it all to her attorney with a single note. If Marissa continues this charade, I'll be filing charges for fraud, harassment, and defamation. The silence that followed was deafening. One evening, Marissa showed up at my door, tears streaking her face. "You ruined me," she sobbed. "You took everything from me." I stared at her in disbelief. "I ruined you. Marissa, you tried to steal my husband's legacy, destroy my reputation, and rob Caleb of his father's memory. You did this to yourself." She fell silent, her eyes dark and resentful. "He should have been mine," she whispered. "Daniel always liked me better." My stomach churned. For the first time, I saw her not as my sister, but as a stranger consumed by envy. "Get help," I said quietly, "because you'll never have me, my son, or Daniel's memory, ever." And then I shut the door in her face. Months passed, and Marissa slowly faded from our lives. She never admitted the truth publicly, but word spread quickly about the fake will, the doctored photos, and the real father of her child. Our family was fractured, but Caleb and I found peace again. I focused on rebuilding, on cherishing the memories of Daniel, and on protecting my son from the poison of my sister's lies. One night, as Caleb and I sat on the porch watching the stars, he asked softly, "Mom, is Aunt Marissa gone for good?" I hugged him close. "Yes, sweetheart. She can't hurt us anymore." And for the first time since Daniel's funeral, I truly believed it. Because the truth had finally set us free.